Well, I'm out here on a different day, and I'm going to add this to one of my other plumbing videos, but I wanted to talk a little bit more about how this plumber subcontractor ran his pipes through all of the floor joists. You remember how I showed you how he drilled all of his holes through the floor joists and ran all of his plumbing, and you can drill holes through there because these are TJIs, so you can drill small enough holes to get everything through there. Now I'm still scratching my head as to why he went the added extra effort to drill on every single one of those. He has 3 holes to drill. Okay, each one of those TJIs all the way down. And why do you suppose he did that? Like I said, I'm still scratching my head as to why he did that. Because all of these lines are flexible lines. You can see they're just plastic pipe, and you can bend it, and you can do whatever you want. What I would have done, I don't know why he didn't do it, and I didn't get a chance to ask him. Next time I see him out here at the job site, I'll ask him why he didn't run the entire length, but underneath, and he could have strapped it to the bottom of these TGI floor joists, couldn't he have? All the way through there. Now granted, when he went through that beam right there, when he went through that I-beam, that beam is spanning that little area for crawl space to go through there, because there's a concrete stem wall from here to there, and then from there over, and so there's a section there about 5-6 feet long where there's that beam. See, he might have, no, actually he wouldn't have had to drill that either. He could have went underneath it, and by drilling those 3 holes, granted that's beam material, but it's that plywood stuff. So is it okay to drill holes through it? I guess it is. But he could have ran all that plastic underneath and then stapled it underneath. And I'm just not understanding why he would have done that. And then see in through here when he came through with his pipes right here, boom, boom, boom. Then he went through all these TGI floor joists, boom, 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 to get his water lines over there, to get his water line over here, to bring these water lines over here, to bring that over there. He did all that extra work, and each time he drilled holes through there, not every single one, but see those rubber things right there, or they're heavy nylon plastic sleeves. He has to put that in every other bay, and then that kind of supports the pipes from flopping around. You don't want to hear those flopping around when you turn the water on and off, and hear it underneath the floor go ga-doong and stuff like that. And so now he has the added cost of all these plastic deals. See, those get in there, and that keeps that tight. You don't have to do it in every hole. See, he did that, and then he missed those, and then he did the next one, then he skipped one, did another one. He wouldn't have had to do all that either. Couldn't he have taken this and ran it underneath? Couldn't he have ran it underneath and then come up and then go straight up? In fact, had he have come underneath, he could have then just zipped this straight up. He wouldn't even had to have used an elbow there. He could have zipped it up like this, as it under there, and just go like that and attached it. I'm not quite sure why he did that. So if I would have been the plumber, I would have ran everything underneath, and then you would use the staples like this, these little ones, and you would nail them up underneath here. Now maybe he decided, I don't want to work. I don't want to have to crawl down in there, and then I have to strain my neck and work upside down, and a lot of working on my hands and knees and looking up, and it was much easier for him to do it this way. And maybe that's the only thing I can think of. But now that he's done that, are you thinking what I'm thinking? Well, remember what happens after this? The insulation, the floor insulation gets installed in here. Now that floor insulation, I don't know how thick they're going to make it. I think minimum code is R19 or R21 or R22, which is about 5 inches, 6 inches thick insulation. Okay, and nowadays you might even be able to get actual 7-inch. These are 7 inches tall. You might be able to get something that tall, but when they get the insulation, now they have to mess with all this stuff. This is in the way, that's in the way, that's in the way. Every single bay, you've got that. You've got, when you run your insulation, how are you going to do it around there? What the guy's probably going to do is when he installs his insulation, he's going to put it in nice and thick in there, and then he's going to smash the insulation under there and up and over, and he's probably not going to cut out. Technically, that's not how you're supposed to install the insulation. You decrease the R value anytime you smash up your insulation. You don't want your insulation hanging down any lower than the bottom of here, because they're going to probably put netting under there. So when they get here, the bottom of the insulation is going to be the bottom of the TGI, or right at this point, see, and then coming up this way. When you get up further, he's going to mash the insulation down, or he's going to have to cut the insulation here, cut a little piece, and then take this other piece, split it, kind of slip it over there and sandwich it in. You think he's going to do that on every single one of those? I don't. I sadly don't think the insulation guy is going to do that. He's going to shake his head, and he's going to say, I'm not doing that. He would have to split all of his insulation around there to make the R factor. You don't want to squish the insulation together. Once you do that, you lose your R factor. Now granted, it's underneath the floor. How much R factor is it going to be? How much decrease in your insulation is it going to be? Are you going to get any air from underneath the house, up underneath your floor and all that kind of stuff? Well, I don't know. But technically, I'm telling you, when they install the insulation, they are supposed to do it in such a way to where you don't mash the insulation up. So now in all of these bays, wherever those pipes are, and I'll walk you down here. I got enough time. You can still. I'm going to stand up here. See them all. See it all in there. Look at all that, and even all. Look at all those pipes in there. Good grief! He could have ran every single last one of those underneath the TJIs, couldn't he have? That's what I would have done. Now I'm just at a loss, like I say, as to why he would do that. And then as he came across this way, we'll walk over there. As he came across, he did the same thing. He drilled holes through all of that. And lucky for him, TJI floor joists, you can drill holes through there. If these were 2x12 Douglas fir 2x12s, obviously you can't drill holes through anything like that. But through TJIs. TJI means a truss, joist, I-beam. I think TJI is. I call them a TJI. Okay, that's what these are. Okay, you can drill holes through them like this. Okay, how many holes can you drill through each one and maintain the strength and integrity of this? I don't know exactly, but the plumber should know that, and I would think it's okay. Because on these, as I had showed you before, there's knockouts all along here for if you wanted to use these holes. See, they're all along here. That already weakens this a little bit, but it's still designed to hold up the weight. Now, the reason why he didn't use those is because whoever laid these TJIs out, they would have had to lay out every single one, even on the notches and everything, to make sure to line up all of these holes, so that he wanted to use those through one whole thing. He could whack that one out, whack that one out, whack that one out. But as it is, see, this one here is right here. That next one is right there. The next one is right there. And so that's why he says, oh, I don't usually use those holes. I just drill my own. Plus that would only been enough for one pipe, and he's using 3. But why on earth couldn't he have just ran that? Very simple. He could have ran that underneath there. Now granted, it would have been a little bit more work, and he was standing up here and working up here, and I think it was more for convenience sake for him to a certain extent. But now it messes up the insulation guy when the insulation guy puts all of his full bad insulation in here. Then when it gets to here, he's got to be like, okay, what do I do? Take this from here to here, split it in half, flop half of this over to here, and push the bottom in, and then take the other half and flop it over the top. You could do that, but look at every bay he's got to do that, and that's probably the way he would have to do that right there at that end. But see, here is not at the end of his insulation. His insulation will start from here going that way. So, and these three pipes are kind of in the middle. How are you going to do that? Cut the insulation from here to here, and then have the next bat split it from here to there sideways, flip this up, flop one down, flop that over, slide that. Now you have to cut insulation twice in each bay instead of once in each bay. I kind of doubt the insulation guy is going to do that. I think he's going to start from there, and he's just going to push it underneath these pipes, and then it's going to flop back up. And so it's going to be pushed down from this level down, and then it's going to come up here. So you're going to lose your R factor from this point up to that point. I'm telling you. So there's a few things to consider if you're going to be installing your plumbing underneath the house. And it's okay to use this plastic stuff nowadays, okay? But it could have been really nice and easy to do that. You get a helper, and you have the helper. He's crawling around underneath the floor, and he's doing that, and the other guy is doing his measuring and cutting and fitting things and hooking things up and all that, while somebody else goes down. Okay, now staple these all up underneath. Okay, and then I'll tell you what to do after that. Okay, now do these. Now do that over. I mean, but see, he was working by himself, but still he could have done it all, just working by himself from underneath. But for some reason, see, he just decided not to do it. So I'm just giving you some thoughts and ideas. Will this way work? Yeah, it'll work. Obviously, it'll work. Inspector, I'm sure, will pass it. He's not going to make him tear all this out for any unknown reason. But the insulation guy, he's not going to be too happy about it. Okay? So think about it before running your piping, your water lines, your flexible water lines through the TJIs, okay? You make the decision. Now, I wish I could report to you that the framing has started, but of course, if you've been with me before, you know they have not started this framing yet. This is the bottom plate and the top plate for all the walls have been all laid out, have been all marked out and stuff, and this has been sitting here for a few days now. But one thing I wanted to do was add on to what I was talking about the plumber, and I'm gonna put this right where you're seeing the other video where I was talking about how the plumbers installed all their pipes underneath here and drilled holes through all of the TJI floor joists, and you just saw that part. And I was talking about how the guys were it was gonna be difficult for them to install the floor insulation. Well, guess what? They have not installed the insulation under this floor yet. And I thought initially, it was my guess, my educated guess, that they were going to install the insulation before they installed the plywood, thus making it difficult for the insulation guys to install their insulation. How I was explaining to you how I would have done it had I have done it right before installing the plywood. But they had, then it would have been difficult for them to get it through the pipes and notch it and all that kind of stuff, how I explained. But you know what? I think they were a jump ahead of me, where they thought, hey, we're going to install the insulation after the plywood gets down, after the plumbers get down, and the plumber might have known that already. And so now, when they install the insulation underneath this floor now, of course they're not going to put that netting. Of course they're going to be able to push it in up underneath, and where you saw all those pipes along there, they're just going to push it up underneath the pipes and like that. and then they'll hold it up with that wire that I was explaining to you. And so they're not going to mat down the insulation at all. It's just going to kind of poof down underneath. It's going to stay up high in the floor joist, and then it's going to go underneath the other pipes and up like that, you know, wherever they see the water lines. And that's the other way you can do it. But of course, if you were going to do it before you put the floor down, it would have made it much more difficult. And as for why I was shaking my head why the plumber would have installed it and drilled the holes through all the TGI floor joists, but as you will recall, I did tell you that he was out here all by himself a couple different days. He had his kids, he had his boy and some other guys, friends of his son, I think, were helping him one particular day, but the first couple days he worked here all by himself. So I guess he figured, hey, it was going to be easier for him to drill all the holes. Then he could step on all the floor joists across here and just kind of fish his lines through, fish his lines through, fish his lines through. Had he have done it the other way, he would have been up and down, 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 up and what? Up and down. You know, all day long, just trying to get all of his things in there. And as it was, he could just kind of push them in through the floor joists and stuff. And I guess that's why he did that. So, you know, you just think about your project. You do it however you think is the easiest, the quickest way for you to do it. Okay? Is there two ways to do something? Of course, there's always two different ways. You know, install the insulation before the plywood, install the insulation after the plywood underneath the floor. And that's what they're going to have to do. They're going to have to come under here later on, and they can do that. They can do that later. You know, like I said before, the air conditioner guys are going to have to come and do their final connections underneath all of their air registers on the floor. Boom, 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 all along the outside edge, all inside. Here's one here. Most of them are on the perimeter, aren't they? There's one over there, there's one. There's going to be a couple over there, and they're all along the perimeter. All of those still have to be hooked up. They've got all their ducting run. If you've been watching my videos, and I hope you have, I've shown you the air conditioning ducting. That's all run underneath here, and they still have to do their final termination connections on all of where the registers are. So once they do that, and they probably won't do that until the roof is installed, until the tiles on the roof have been installed, until this gets all dried in from the walls, and they put the plywood on the walls, they put the Tyvek on the walls and all that kind of stuff, and the windows in and all that, and they'll be assured that it's not going to rain, it's not going to get wet in here. Then he'll probably call the air conditioning guys back out. Hey, Joe, come on out. We want you to install those registers, connections, the final connections underneath the floor, so that we can get our insulation guys in here. Okay, so they'll get their insulation, they'll get their air conditioning register final connections all installed. And will the plumbing inspector, will the air conditioning inspector have to come back out here? Probably. He's probably talked to the inspector, and the inspector might say, no, go ahead and make the final connections and make sure you wrap insulation on those final connections like we were talking about before, and I'll look at that later, or I'll trust you, or, you know, whatever the inspector's going to say. And I have no idea. That's between you and the inspector to work out. If the inspector has to crawl back down under the floor with the flashlight, so be it. He'll get underneath the floor. Remember, I showed you there's one location here, and there's another location over there to get underneath the floor. And then he'll shine his flashlight down there. He might take this little section out and crawl over here to this one right here. And then he might look at that one right there, and he might look at this one right here. And if he sees that those are all done, and the contractor says, oh yeah, we've done all the other ones like that. Okay, yeah, those look good. Those look good. Fine. Or he'll check these. He'll crawl underneath the house on that one there, and he might check 2 or 3 other locations. See, right here. You can get underneath the floor right there. okay? And then he might crawl over to that one, that one, that one, and that one, and just check those. And if he's happy and satisfied with that, he's not going to crawl around and check every single one. But once he gets that, then guess what? The insulation guys can come and do all the stuff underneath the floor. And then once that's done, the structural inspector, he can look at that at final inspection or something. He doesn't have to come out. That's not holding up anybody, right? Not holding up anybody. They can have a big old party down there. The contractor can have a couple, you know, if he has a son or a friend of his wants to make a few extra bucks, he can come out here on the weekends, and however long it takes him to put all this insulation in underneath, he can do that. It's not holding up anybody. Everything else can be done. So that you know, there's some good thought on that. Okay, so anyway, I wanted to finalize, maybe give you some thoughts and ideas when you're running your water lines under here, when you get ready to install your insulation. What's your different choices, whether or not you run your water lines through the TGIs like he did, or if you run it underneath, like I was saying, I thought he should do, but you know, it made sense for him because he was, like I said, he was working by himself, and he probably thought, yeah, I'm gonna burn up a couple drill bits here, but I'm gonna do what I have to do to get this job done, drill out all the holes. Thank goodness it was all TGI floor joists so that he could do that, right? And then he just kind of fished his pipe, and then he could stand on the floor joists and then just kind of go a little bit, and then just kind of go a little bit, and then just kind of go a little bit, and do all that. And he was working up on top of the floor joists instead of crawling around underneath, up and down, up and down, up and down, jump down, jump up, jump down, jump up, and all that kind of stuff. And I think that's probably why he did it the way he did. Okay, well, that's all I got for this time. But I'll be back with more videos, and hopefully, I say hopefully, the next time I come out here, they'll have some walls up. Hey, there's not much more that I can talk about at this point without having these walls up. That's the next thing on the schedule for this project. Hope you're learning stuff, and don't worry, I'll have more videos to come on how to build a house.